What's up, YouTube? This is Brian, GP Rod and Customs, and welcome to today's episode of Teach It Tuesday. What we're going to do today is I'm going to use what's called an oscilloscope, better known as an OScope or scope meter. This is what we do to basically set a limit on the radio. You can use it on an aftermarket radio or a factory radio. It's basically to see how high you can turn that radio up, and we're going to use it to set the gains on these two JL amplifiers that are in this truck. This truck that we're currently working on is a 2008 GMC Crew Cab. It's getting focal speakers, 4 JL 10 TW1s, 2 JL amplifiers, and it has a Kenwood double DIN head unit in there. What OScope does, it reads variable voltage. So basically what that is it'll read the signal that's coming from the radio, and as you turn the radio up and down, it'll give you a waveform, and then the waveform will turn to a square form, and then that'll be the clipping point. And it'll do the same thing for the amplifier. So it'll let us see where the radio clips at, and it'll let us turn the gains of the amp all the way up to the clipping point, and then we'll back it down just a hair. It's an extra precaution that we use around here. We try to do this to every one of our systems. That way it's fail-proof for the customer, and he shouldn't have a problem out of it. We're going to check the output of the radio. We're going to see the max volume before clipping. So, and the way we're going to go about doing this is I'm going to use my phone. I have a signal generator on my phone. So I paired my phone up to the radio, so we're doing this Bluetooth. I got my signal generator set to 1K, very close to 1K anyway. That's where you're going to want it when you're doing outputs of the radio. I'm going to turn it up to -6 dB. And I'm going to go ahead and crank this radio all the way up so I can see where it's clipping. And there's no sound coming through here because you don't want sound coming through the speakers. You don't want tone signals coming through the speakers like that, because it can damage the speaker the longer it sits there with it on there. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to put the OScope on the output of the radio, and then we're going to see where it's at. Got the OScope turned on, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the front RCAs, and these RCAs were previously put in by another person, but they're good. They tested good, so we're going to go with these RCAs. Front RCAs, I'm going to go to the left. This is output of the radio, so this would be going into the amplifier. I'm going to plug this Y adapter that I had, and I just cut one end off so I can use either end and then put my OScope on that. So plug my Y adapter in there, take the leads from the OScope, and the OScope has a double lead. It has a single lead into the OScope, and it has a negative and a positive right there. So I'm going to put my positive on, my negative. Now I'm going to clip my positive. And as you can see, that's the reading that I'm getting from the output of the radio. Now, if you remember, the radio was turned all the way up, and you see how it's a clean wave and it doesn't square off at the top. That means it's an unclipped volume. So the customer should be able to turn this radio all the way to 40 without having any distortion, once we set the amplifiers the same way. To test output of the amp, basically I got me some speaker wire, and I went into the output of the amp. I just did channel 1, which is the left, so I have left RCA plugged in. Now once again, you don't want these tones coming through these speakers, because you can damage the speaker that way. So everything else is disconnected. We got left channel RCA in, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a positive and my negative lead, and I'm going to connect it to the output of this amp. So here's my positive, and there's the negative, and here's our reading on the output of the amp. Now this signal is all the way down the output, so it's reading 3.94 volts output. So we're going to go to the gain on the amplifier, and we're going to start turning this up, and then when we turn it up, you'll see the wave moving and you'll see the voltage going up. It's reading 8 volts, still has a very clean signal. Now you would think you'd be able to turn most amps up halfway, 3/4 of the way before it starts clipping. You're probably wrong on that. Okay, that's under halfway, and you see how we have a line right there? That shows that the amp is clipping. We're putting out 19.3 volts. And if you want to look at the gain on the amplifier, you can see it's under halfway. We can go up higher, and that clip just gets wider and wider. So actually halfway is right there, 22 volts. Very dirty signal. So what we're going to do is we're going to back the gain down till the square goes away, and we get a nice rounded waveform. And that's what we're going to go with right there, 14.5 volts. And that's 3/8 of the way up, maybe a little over a quarter. So basically this amplifier front channel is set to its maximum limit with the radio turned all the way up. So now we're going to repeat the same steps, and we're going to do channel 3 and 4. Alright, so we got the front set up. We're going to set up the rear. Basically, you want to try to put the rear at the same voltage as you did the front. That way you have a good even sound. So we're going to do a quick adjustment, see if we can get it to about the same. It's going to be real close. Let's see how far off it is from clipping. Yeah, so it's about the same as the other one. So that's the rear. So now we're going to move on to the sub. We're going to go into settings, audio. I think I want EQ, subwoofer level. We're going to turn the subwoofer level all the way up so we can get the output of that. This is my sub RCA. So once again, I'm going to take this Y adapter. I'm going to plug it in. One side, it's mono signal, so it doesn't matter. Take my OScope, positive to positive, and negative to negative. Well, and I need to change the test tone. And for subs, we probably need to go 50 hertz test tone. So that's really pretty close. And this is a simple app anybody can get on their phone. It's just called a signal generator. And you can see we have the waveform already started. It's real clean, but we're only at 3.8 volts. We want to get it a lot higher than that for a sub. So we're going to set this sub up real quick. I know, I normally do. Alright, let's plug this in. Positive to positive, and negative to negative. And where are we at on this gain? We are all the way down, and we're at 37.9 volts on the OScope. Very clean signal, and that amplifier is all the way down. So it's a pretty efficient amplifier right there, already putting out 38 volts. So let's turn it up and see where it goes. It's already clipping. Not even a quarter of the way up and it's clipping. So back it off. Usually on a sub you can have a little bit of clipping. For one, it's such a low frequency, you probably, more than likely, you're never going to hear it. And another reason is usually the sub is a lot further away. And this sub is not really that further away, but it is under a seat. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of clip, which will be perfectly fine. We're at 53.8 volts, which is very, very good. The subs that we're putting in here should really sound good. off this amplifier, and it is a XD1001. Alright, so that concludes today's video. OScope, perfect tool to set gains on an amplifier and know the maximum output of a radio. Hope y'all liked it. If you did, do that thing up there. Can't ever remember it, and like it. Follow us on Instagram, share the knowledge, and come back next Tuesday.